Howdy, it's Kyle, taking a look at some cities and counties that are located between larger metros. So whether these be completely built up suburbs being pulled in two different directions by the larger cities of these metros, or they be the only rural, the only open space between larger ones and the only thing keeping it from being a megalopolis, I want to take a look at some of these counties and cities that are being sandwiched by larger metros. I want to start by discussing the one that I think of first when I think of places like this, and that's Columbia, Maryland. It's located in the DC-Baltimore combined metro area. It's about 20 miles to Baltimore and about 27 miles to DC. There are about 100,000 people that live in Columbia, but it isn't actually a city. It's really a private, just giant homeowners association. It was created from scratch in 1967 as a planned bedroom community for DC and Baltimore. It's owned and operated by the Howard Hughes Corporation. There are no elected officials. It's run by a community board. So it is kind of like a giant HOA, and check out their own homepage. It says join now, lock in the lowest rate, sign up before membership prices increase. Those aren't the kind of things you want to hear about the city in which you live. I've always felt this place to be kind of strange, just being a private city, but the Howard Hughes Corporation is looking to redevelop a big part of it since it was so heavily focused on a shopping mall before. But the fact that it's located between two larger metros is precisely why it was created in the first place as a bedroom community. And through the years, the whole area has been built up, so there's nothing but built up suburbia surrounding Columbia all the way to DC or Baltimore. The second location I want to look at is Douglas County, Colorado. This is located along the I-25 corridor about 30 miles south of Denver, about 40 miles north of Colorado Springs, both of which are growing quite a bit. There are about 360,000 people in Douglas County, and it is growing quite a bit. And the only open space between Metro Denver and Metro Colorado Springs is the southern end of Douglas County. On this map, you can see the county line for El Paso County, which is where Colorado Springs is, and Douglas County. You can see that county line street is where the development stops. And you can see just how proud Douglas County is of their outlet mall. You have 9 photos in their array of photos, and 2 of them are of the outlet mall. So you look at the land use for the county, a good chunk of the northern half is urban and suburban, and most of the southern half is rural or wilderness. So if there were to be a lot of development along the I-25 corridor between central Douglas County and the El Paso County line, there would be one contiguous urban blob all the way from Fort Collins down to Colorado Springs. I doubt the people want that, and for right now there's still plenty of open space between the two, but Douglas County is the last bit of open area between the larger metros to the north and south. Next place I'm going to is Flagler County, Florida. The population of the county is about 131,000, and it's the only county under 170,000 on the entire Florida Atlantic coast. Most of the people in the county live in the city of Palm Coast, which has about 100,000 people, and most of the rest live south of there, going down to the Volusia County line, which is Daytona Beach. When you get just north of Flagler County, you get to St. Johns County, which is where St. Augustine is, but a good chunk of this county has been suburbanized by Jacksonville. And the northern half of Flagler County is about the only bit of open space on the entire Atlantic coast of Florida. Everywhere else is completely built up. And Flagler County is growing quite a bit. There were only 50,000 people in 2000, and again there are 131,000 now. It's almost tripled just this century. So you look at just how long the Florida coast is, and a very small part of it is undeveloped. There's a lot of pressure on Florida for development. I wonder how much longer this place will be able to hold out, and if the entire coast of Florida will be one giant development all the way from Jacksonville down to Miami. Something strange about this county is that there's a small amusement park there called Marineland, but it's actually an incorporated city. There are a few houses there, and there's a population of 15 people that live in Marineland. The next county I'm going to is one state up to Georgia, and I'm going to Gordon County. This is located between the Atlanta and Chattanooga metro areas. It's about 65 miles to Atlanta, about 50 miles to Chattanooga. However, there are only about 20 miles of open space between Calhoun, which is the county seat for Gordon County, and the northernmost suburbs of Atlanta in Bartow County. There are only about 20 miles of open space to the north up to the town of Dalton, which is where the Chattanooga suburbs start. So this county is the only one between the two metros that isn't officially part of either one of the metro areas. However, this county is not growing a whole lot. There are only about 60,000 people now, and there were 44,000 back in 2000. The county seat is Calhoun with 17,000, and that's the biggest town in the county, so it's very rural. And by no means does it feel suburban at all, so it still has a rural character even though it is being encroached on both sides by two bigger cities. Right now, I don't see a whole lot of pressure on Gordon County to develop a whole lot, but if this county does develop quite a bit, there will be one long contiguous urban blob between Atlanta and Chattanooga. Okay, now heading up to Ohio, I'm going to Madison County. This is located in between the Dayton-Springfield metro area and the Columbus metro area. The county seat is London. It's about 20 miles east of Springfield and about 25 miles west of Columbus. Madison County has 44,000 people, and there were 40,000 in 2000, so there's been very little growth in this county. In fact, the easternmost town in the county is called West Jefferson, and it's been losing population for several years now. Clark County to the west, which is where Springfield is currently losing population as well. It's gone from 144 to 134,000 this century. However, to the east, Columbus is growing quite a bit. Franklin County has gone from 1,068,000 to 1.3 million in just the past 20 years, and the metro area has about 2.2 million. So Madison, rural county between two larger metros, one growing a lot, one losing population. So there really isn't much of a threat of this county growing a whole lot and Dayton and Columbus being one large contiguous urban blob. But one thing for counties like this, or some of the other ones I'll mention in this video, is that you are close enough to these larger metros to where someone can commute to the larger cities but still live in a small town in a rural community. Heading southwest out of Ohio, I'm going to Texas and Hill County. This county is located south of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and north of the Waco metro area, and not to be confused with Hill Country, which is a different part of Texas. Hill County has about 36,000 people. There were about 32,000 in 2000, so not much growth this century. The county seat is Hillsboro with about 8,000 people with a population decline. Hillsboro is about 55 to 60 miles south of Dallas and Fort Worth, and it's about 30 miles north of Waco. And Hill County is the only large area of open space anywhere along the I-35 corridor between the south end of the San Antonio suburbs and the Oklahoma border. However, to the north are two very fast-growing counties in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs. Johnson County and Ellis County both have almost doubled in population in the past 20 years. To the south, Waco isn't growing as much, but there is still some growth there, and McClellan County, where it's located, has 265,000 people. But for the time being, I don't see a whole lot of growth in Hill County, so I do expect it to remain rural for quite some time, but it will be the only rural spot along the I-35 corridor in the state. Well, I guess except for that part between San Antonio and Laredo, at least. Next, we're going back north to one that's already been completely surrounded, and that's Kenosha, Wisconsin. There are about 100,000 people in the city of Kenosha and about 170,000 people in the county. And these are up from 90,000 and 150,000 in 2000, so some growth, but not a whole lot. And this city and county are located between the Milwaukee and Chicago metro areas. The city of Kenosha is 8 miles to the Illinois border and about 65 miles to Chicago, while being 40 miles to Milwaukee and 22 miles to the southernmost Milwaukee suburbs near Oak Creek. There's virtually no open space at all between Kenosha and Chicago, and a little bit of open space in the northern part of Kenosha County. I do find it interesting that Kenosha is counted as part of the Chicago metro area and not Milwaukee, even though it's closer to Milwaukee than Chicago. And I do know that Chicago, being larger, has more of a gravitational orbit, so it spreads out a little bit farther, but just still being within Wisconsin and being closer to Milwaukee, I do find that interesting. Perhaps the most famous site in Kenosha is the Mars Cheese Castle. Come on, people, it's a castle of cheese. And just from my experience there last year, I saw a lot more Green Bay Packers flags and stickers and things on cars than Chicago Bears. So if you live in Kenosha, let me know if you lean more towards Milwaukee or Chicago. But either way, Kenosha is a perfect example, kind of like Columbia, Maryland, where it's already built up between the two larger metros and it's kind of being pulled in two different directions. Next up, going back down south to Alamance County, North Carolina. This is the county located directly east of the Greensboro, Winston-Salem metro area and directly west of the Raleigh-Durham metro area. There are about 180,000 people now. There were about 130,000 in 2000, so some pretty decent growth. Burlington is the county seat with about 60,000 people. It's located 22 miles east of Greensboro and about 34 miles west of Durham. Both of these are growing quite a bit, so there's been a lot of pressure on Burlington to grow a lot, and there are plenty of families that live in Alamance County where somebody commutes to Raleigh, somebody commutes to the Piedmont Triad, and they live in Burlington. The Piedmont Triad metro area has about 1.7 million, and the Raleigh-Durham metro area has about 2.1 million. So Alamance County is sitting right here surrounded by larger metros that total 4 million people. And to give you an idea of just how much growth there's been around here, Interstate 40 between Greensboro and Raleigh is 8 lanes the entire way, even though it goes through some of the more rural parts of Alamance County. This is one of the counties in this video that I can see becoming almost completely built up, and the I-40 corridor being completely built up between Winston-Salem and Raleigh. Personally, I prefer infill in the bigger cities than suburban sprawl, but we'll have to see what Alamance County and Burlington decide in the future. Keeping it in the same region, I'm going just south to Cherokee County, South Carolina. This is a county that borders North Carolina. It's east of the Greenville-Spartanburg area and southwest of the Charlotte-Gastonia area. The county seat is Gaffney, which is about 50 miles to Charlotte, 30 miles to Gastonia, and about 19 miles to Spartanburg. There are about 57,000 people in the county. There were about 52,000 back in 2000, so not much growth in this county. The city of Gaffney has about 13,000. That's the biggest town in the county. And this county is just about the only large open area anywhere along the I-85 corridor between Raleigh and Atlanta. Once you get south of Raleigh, the I-85 corridor becomes the more important north-south route as opposed to the I-95 corridor closer to the coast. But this county being mostly rural in South Carolina, it's also a fairly poor county with about 20% poverty rate. If you've heard of Cherokee County, it's probably because of its most famous landmark, the Gaffney Peachoid. This is a water tower shaped like a peach. It's often referred to as the big butt in the sky. It stands at 135 feet. But yeah, Gaffney and Cherokee County, the last swath of open space along I-85 in the Carolinas. Going to the northeast, I'm heading up to Princeton, New Jersey. This is located right in the middle of the state, roughly halfway between New York City and Philadelphia. It's about 50 miles to Manhattan, about 43 miles to downtown Philly. The population is about 31,000 in the city, and it's growing fairly slowly. It's really close to Trenton, the capital of New Jersey, so many of the people in Princeton are either government workers or they work for the university. The county in which it's located is Mercer County. It has about 382,000 and overall is a fairly wealthy county. With the county being located between New York and Philly, most of the population growth through the years has been suburban bedroom community growth. And so it's really interesting to have Princeton, kind of a small, quaint college town located right in the middle of these two giant metro areas, and the part of the state of New Jersey just west of Princeton is about the only area between New York and Philly that isn't completely built up. And it's not like it's rural Alaska, but it is fairly lightly populated for the metro area between New York and Philly. But with Princeton being just far enough from both New York and Philly and being home to a major university and it being a major college town means it just has a very different feel than some of the other areas between those two large metros. So the town feels very quaint, and you might not think you're between such major metro areas, but Princeton is located halfway between these two large cities. Okay, heading out to the west coast, I'm going to Solano County, California. This is the county located to the northeast of the San Francisco Bay Area and to the southwest of the Sacramento area. The county seat is Fairfield, which is roughly halfway between Sacramento and San Francisco. It takes about an hour to drive to either. There are about 450,000 people in the county. There were 394,000 in 2000, so decent growth. And Interstate 80 is the main route that goes through this county, going to the main cities of Vallejo, Fairfield, and Vacaville. So if you drive along I-80 between the Bay Area and Sacramento, there really isn't much open space at all, but the little bit of open space there is between the cities of Solano County. But because Solano County is located halfway between the Bay Area and Sacramento is why it's being proposed as a spot for a brand new city to be built from scratch. I actually have an entire video on this project on my secondary channel, California View. I'll leave a link to that in the description. I doubt the plan will come to fruition, but this is a good part of the state to see a lot of growth. You do have some open space there, and I do think Solano County is a good spot to grow, although again, I would like to see more infill development in the bigger cities and the larger metros and see I-80 being completely built up between the two. But for right now, Solano County is about the only open space along I-80 in California. So that's my look at a handful of in-betweener cities and counties, and we'll have to check back in the future to see if some of these rural ones become the urban bridge between the two larger metros. But if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up to let me know you approve, and subscribe to this channel if you're interested in learning more about geography from a nerd. But yeah, thanks for watching. Geography King, signing out. I'd like to give a special thanks to my superior patrons for their support, especially Rusty in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're interested in supporting this channel, you can check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description. As always, thank you very much.